Ladies and gentlemen and assembled company, welcome to our second program tonight on the World Storytelling Cafe. And tonight was the inspiration of Gary Cordingley, who, knowing we were putting on this fantastic storytelling festival in Marrakesh in February 12th to 20th, if you mark that in your diaries, go to the website, look up the little festival bit at the top, and it will tell you, and it will give a list of riads as well, one of which will be Riad Chameleon, which we have our hosts on tonight in the Josie Hall Square. And Gary said, well, if you're doing this, should we do a fundraiser once a month? If we get a different audience each month, we can dip into different pockets. So there are two ways of donating tonight. One is the usual way on the website, on the square, Rock the Casbah Square, there is a hat. If you click on the hat, that will take you straight to PayPal. Or not, obviously not the people in the room, but the people watching who I can't see on Facebook, they can just go on to paypal.me/FestiFund 2022 and pop a penny or two in that way. We don't care what currency it comes in, as long as it comes in. We are running this festival with actually on goodwill for people like, the people like the Hall family. There, three of them, they're expanding. They're multiplying before our eyes. Riads, bless their hearts, have donated a room to loads of Riads. Have donated a room to the festival, and for some of our tellers. And there's a list of those Riads on there. I'm doing all this advertising first because it is important. You go to the list of the Riads, and then you think, do I want to stay where other storytellers are telling? Of course you do. So you can go direct. All those Riads will have their own websites, and you can book direct with them. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with booking.com. I use it a lot, but for this, we want you to book direct with the Riads, because that way they get more, and they are indeed in need of more, given what's happened around the world for the last year. But I'm going to stop rattling on. I'll stop the adverts. You can ask me questions during if that's not clear. But I'm going to go to Gary Cordingley to rattle on. Rattle on, Gary.
I will, John. Thank you very much for that introduction, and what a great privilege it is to be here in the hot seat and hosting this evening's event, and to have these wonderful storytellers join us, and for Maggie and Tony to join us as well, and to tell us a little bit about their Riad, perhaps. Now, Liz, she is in the room with us at the moment, listening in to us and waving. Hi, Liz. I hope you're okay. Liz was going to, then we had the thumbs up. Liz was going to lead the session this evening with a little set of stories about food, one of our favorite subjects. But then she had like a little medical intervention was, I'm not sure. But anyway, it was like one of those things where they say, look, you've been waiting for this for a little while, and now is the opportunity. And it came along on Thursday, and Liz was not one to miss an opportunity. She had the little bit of surgery, and we've given her the night off. So we wish you a speedy recovery, Liz. And you'll come back and join us on another night, I'm sure. And so this evening, as you said, John, came about because, there's a big excitement amongst the storytellers that I know on World Storytelling Cafe about the fact that there is going to be a festival next year, and a whole bunch of us are going to be coming across and telling stories in Marrakesh. And it's been a lifelong dream of mine to visit Marrakesh, and I never thought I'd see that, but it looks like I'm on my way. And then we were talking, or there was a conversation going about how this would be funded, and of course there's no funding there's no funding at the moment to be had at all. And I was told that, you know, there are various things that need to be paid for, including feeding the storytellers. And I thought, well, if there's no money, we're gonna be hungry. So that was kind of like what was behind the idea of having these evenings, was to start raise funds so that we could eat, and then hopefully we get enough money so that we can eat, and it's not coming out of Mike's pockets and everybody, all the other Riyadh owners and the people behind the scenes there. And then whatever's left over can go towards other things that are happening at the festival. That's the idea. So welcome, all of you. Welcome to this, the first night, the first Rock the Casbah night. And because Liz was going to tell us a sort of 20 or 30 minute set, and now she's not, I thought I was not going to tell a story, but I will tell a story if that's okay. And I thought we'd start the evening with a little story which I picked up many, many years ago from an old friend of mine, Chris Bostock, storyteller up in Newcastle upon Tyne. And he, well, he told this as part of his repertoire, and I picked it up and been telling it ever since. And this is a story that comes from Turkey, and as far as I know, and I'm sure that you will have heard of this character, and it comes in many guises. The one I know him as is the Hodger. And Hodger is a particular kind of character, and the best way to describe the kind of character he is to tell you one of his stories. And of course, it's about food. And the Hodger was walking home one hot afternoon on the dusty road from his mother's village, and he was tired and he was thirsty and he was hot, and he was walking back into his own town, and he bumped into an old friend who he hadn't seen for a long time. Oh, they greeted each other. "Oh, Hodger, my friend," said his friend, and they hugged. In the days when you could hug. "Oh, good to see you. Oh, how good that I've seen you today," said the Hodger's friend, "because this evening I am going to be holding a meal at my house, and I would like you to attend and be there as the sun sets." And so they parted, and the Hodger went back to his house, which wasn't a big house by any means, a couple of rooms with somewhere to wash, somewhere to cook, and somewhere to sleep, and somewhere to hang your clothes. He was so tired, and he was so hot from the long walk. He came into it, it was nice and cool in his little abode, and he went and he sat on his bed. Well, he just sat for a couple of moments, and he thought, you know what, I think I'd just put my feet up just before I have a wash and do all the rest of it. So he just put his feet up on the bed, and of course lay his head down on the pillow. And when you put your feet up on the bed and you lay your head down on the pillow, next thing you know, he was away. And whether it was the barking of a dog or the light of the moon that came in through his window that woke him up, I'm not sure, but wake up he did. And when he woke up and looked out, he saw that the sun had already set. Oh my goodness, he was late for his friend's meal. So he quickly dashed out of his house and through the streets of that town until he came to his friend's house, and he knocked on the door. His friend opened the door. "Ah, Hodger, my friend," he said, "look at you. Look at you, still wearing the clothes that I saw you in this afternoon when you were walking back from your mother's village, all covered in dust. Go home now and come back in something more appropriate." "I'm terribly sorry," said the Hodger, and he turned and he went back to his little house. And when he got there, he went to the little room at the back of his bedroom, and he sought through, he pulled back the curtain, and he sought through the clothes that were hanging there, and he found a beautiful silk suit. A beautiful silk suit with many pockets on the outside and many pockets on the inside. And he put that silk suit on, and he washed his face down with water, and then he left his house and he walked back through the streets, back to his friend's house. Knocked on the door, and his friend opened the door. "Ah, Hodger, my friend," he said, "look at you, like a shiny new pin. Come in, come in. Come in and sit down at the table." So the Hodger came in and he sat down at the table. And then the host clapped his hands. "Help yourselves, my friends, help yourselves." And so the people that were sat around the table began to help themselves to the food that was there. Now, the table was piled high with all manner of wonderful things. Now, at this point in the story, I usually ask people in my audience to tell me what kind of wonderful foods were laid on the table. I could tell you that there was at least a huge bowl of hummus, of course. Why would there not be? And a chicken tagine, of course. There was a beautiful chicken tagine. Put your answers in the chat, or press the space bar and tell me straight out. What have we got?
Mac and cheese.
A mac and cheese, of course. Thank you for that, Baba. Yes, mac and cheese. Anything else? Falafel, of course. Lamb. Yes. Oh, they're coming in. Swedish meatballs, strawberry pavlova, cake. Of course, there was cake. There had to be cake. Just any more? One or two more things? There was Stilton. I saw that Irish stew went past just there. Irish stew.
Black beans and rice.
And what was that?
Black beans and rice.
Black beans and rice. Guinness and something with cherries. I saw go there. All manner of delicious foods. And the people that were there began to fill their plates. All of them, except for the Hodger. The Hodger sat and he watched and he waited as the potato breads and the chocolate cakes were disappearing onto people's plates. But the Hodger sat and sat. And when all of the plates were filled, and yes, Guinness is food, I know. And people sat back down at their tables, at their seats. Then the Hodger stood up. And he leant across the table and he dipped his hand into the hummus. He took a great handful of hummus and he opened up his suit and he put his thumb into his inside pocket and in it went. And then he reached across to what was left of the chicken tagine and he lifted up the bowl and he opened another pocket and it went. And then there was some chocolate cake went into the top pocket here. And there was some other stuff. Irish stew went into another pocket over here. And there was some more stuff that was mentioned and a Guinness poured into another pocket here. And he began to fill his pockets and the room sat stunned into silence. And then the host clapped his hands. Hodger, my friend, explain yourself. What are you doing? And the Hodger said, I'm terribly sorry, my friend. He said, explain why you're insulting me like this. I didn't mean to insult you, said the Hodger. When I saw you this afternoon on the road back from my mother's village, you invited me, you hugged me like the old friend that I am and invited you. And so I came to your house. And when you saw me wearing the dusty clothes of the road, you told me to go home and come back to something more appropriate. And so I did. And when I came back in my silky suit and I came to your door, you told me I was like a shiny new pin. And it was then, and then alone, that I realized that it wasn't me that you had invited to your meal, but it was my suit. And I was merely in the process of feeding my suit. The Hodger and the feast. Thank you very much. A great tale, which I always enjoy telling. And thank you for all of those suggestions of what was on the table. They came in long after I'd finished asking for it. So in my usual fashion and being organized, I've completely forgot to ask who would like to tell a story after I tell my story. I'm just wondering whoever's steering the ship, if they could just make sure everybody's muted. The first hand that I saw go up, and that's the basis on which I am working, was Maria Gillen. And I see that Baba has his hand up as well, so perhaps you could go after Maria, Baba, and then there's hang about. No, I can't keep up with you. David and then Rachel. I need to write that down. Well, David and then Baba, David and then Rachel. You can see what a well-oiled machine this all is. So who was that? Maria.
Gary, while
yes.
we're organising, Gary, can we put a slot for Tony and Maggie and I to chat a little bit about Riyadh in the middle?
You absolutely can. That was something I was going to say at the beginning. I was going to say that the evening will be like 4 or 5 stories. And then I wondered, Colin, you've just been singing your heart out. I wondered if you had an extra song that you could just pop in. It doesn't have to be from your CD.
I I would love to sing a song for Janet. I told Janet I would sing a song during the set there, and we kind of ran out of time. And if I could squeeze that in, I would love to.
Okay.
Thank you.
So how about we go Maria, Baba, and then Colin, and then Mike. You could have the conversation, and then we could have David, and then Rachel. Great. Usually we would probably do this sort of thing privately before the event, but anyway, in the future we'll try and make that happen. So Maria, the floor is yours. Everybody else, please be muted. Except Maria, we need to hear you.
No sign, Maria.
Hear me?
Oh, yes, now. No, you've gone again.
Have you a loose connection?
It's
No.
you came on and then you went off, so you might have a loose connection there. Something going on. No,
Yes, because you're not muted.
no. Not sure what that is.
If we were there, we could be a lot of men putting our heads under the bonnet, making random suggestions.
But I think that's a good suggestion, Maria. So perhaps if we go to Baba, and then when Baba has finished his tale, Maria, if you're back.
Okay, well, bear with me. I'm a little shy. You know, when I say that in front of strangers, they don't believe it. Okay, so recently I told the story about why Sky lives so far away. And I want to tell the story today about, well, not about Sky, but about the sun and the moon. For you see, here I go. A long time ago, before people were here, the first people were elements and the animals. Well, you know, there's an old saying about keeping up with the Joneses. And this story kind of follows along that. You see, sun and the moon were husband and wife.
You want to find out about
And they had a very nice compound,
maybe, but I'm gonna
a
listen to
very
this thing.
nice place where they lived. But Moon always wanted more. Such is the way. So she turned to her husband. She says, the compound is not big enough. You must make it bigger. So he made it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And soon their compound was so big that the east wing and the west wing were in different zip codes. Oh, it was big. So she decided she wanted to have a party. And she sent invitations out to all the animals. She sent it out to the elephants, to the king of the jungle, the lions. She sent it to the zebras. She sent invitations to everybody, to the monkey, to Anansi, everybody. And everybody responded except for Ocean. And Moon didn't understand this. She went to her husband. She said, everyone's responded except for Ocean. Why hasn't Ocean responded? And so Sun, being a dutiful husband, went down and he spoke to Ocean. He says, Ocean, everybody has responded to the invitation to come party except for you. And Ocean said, oh, my friend, I meant no disrespect. It's just that I travel with a large entourage and I wasn't sure that your house would be big enough. So Moon was standing by. She said, big enough, big enough. Of course the house is big enough. And Ocean said, well, if you're sure it's big enough, we will come to the party, but I must bring my entourage. And Son said, well, yeah, well, please do, please do. And so on the big day of the gala, or some people say gala, on the big day of the party, see, a party is what you go to, a party is what you are. On the big day of the party, people started coming to the compound. And the lion was there, the elephant was there, the crocodile was there, the zebra was there, the monkey was there, Anansi was there. Everybody was there. And then all of a sudden, Ocean showed up. He says, now, before I come inside, I want to make sure, is your house big enough? Now, Moon took offense. She said, is it big enough? Is it big enough? Of course it's big enough. And so Ocean began to come into the home. And as Ocean came in, he brought along with him the dolphins. I started to make a dolphin joke, but I saw no porpoise in that. And with them came in the yeah, that was really bad. And with them came in the seahorses and the starfish, and they kept coming in, and they kept coming in, and the place was getting full and full. And Ocean said, are you sure it's big enough? And Moon said, of course it's big enough. Of course it's big enough. Come in, come in, come in. And he kept coming in, and he brought in the octopus and the squid, and he brought in the whale, and everyone was having a whaling good time. And he kept coming in, and it filled up. I know that was bad. And it filled up the ground floor and was going to the second floor. And Ocean said, now, I don't want to offend, but are you sure your house is big enough? And Moon said, of course it's big enough. It's big enough. Bring you and your friends inside. The house is big enough. And he kept coming in, and he brought in a kraken, and he brought in more and more and more creatures from the sea, and the house went up to the second floor, and then the third floor, and then the attic, and then to the rafters, and the house began to bulge and bulge, and Ocean said, are you sure your house is big enough? And fit of madness, Moon said, yes, stop asking me that question. The house is big enough. And he kept coming in, and the house bowled out, and then whoosh. And everyone started shooting toward the sky. Ocean said, are you sure it's big enough? And Moon said, yes, it's big enough. And after a while, all the animals that went up in the air started coming back, started raining back down, including the cats and dogs. Yes, it was raining cats and dogs. And all the animals fell back down to the earth, and one by one, two by two, they began to go back to where they had been before the party. But Sun and the Moon kept going up further and further and further, and they got stuck in the sky. Now, Sun and Moon could have come back down, but Moon was too embarrassed because her desire to have the biggest and bestest had gotten them shot up into the air, and all the animals spread around the world. So she's too embarrassed to come out during the day, and the Sun is out during the day trying to be bright and happy and make everyone feel good and looking for Moon, but Moon keeps moving until Sun gets tired and has to take his rest, and then Moon comes out embarrassed, and she looks down on the earth. And some say to this day, you can still hear people going, is it big enough? Is it big enough? Yes, it's big enough. Now, there's several morals to this story, and I usually ask the audience what they think it is. So before I tell you what I think the moral is, would a couple of people like to unmute and tell me what they think the moral is?
I'm checking my mic, and I think it's nagging. Is it nagging?
A good husband will never say he's nagged. Anybody else? Gary, you were going to say something.
For a good party.
Say again.
You need a big house for a good party.
Okay, I like that. Anybody else?
Never have too much water to mix with your drinks.
John, I think I know where your mind is. Well, all of your suggestions are good. You know, sometimes we don't appreciate what we have until we lose it. But now, this statement's going to be a bit delicate. You see, when it comes to having a good time, size doesn't matter. And if it isn't big enough, you might find yourself just blown out of the water. Asante.
That's a great tale. Thank you very much, Baba. Loved it. Loved it. All the puns. That's what really made it. That's what made it.
Tell that to John.
A very funny tale.
It was. A very punny tale indeed. But great and wonderfully told as well. Great presence. You fill the screen with your presence. Thank you, Baba, for sharing that one with us. And we're going to move on because there's a lot of people who could. I usually stop and talk for ages, but in between. But there's a lot of people wanting to tell tonight, and who was next? Maria. If she did, you make it back in? You are. You're there.
I did. I made it back in. And
we can hear
can
you.
You hear me now?
I can.
I'm getting a lovely thumbs up from Jan.
Yeah, that's great. So from Baba to Maria.
Hello, everybody, and Bealtaina honey of Golair, and may you have a beautiful May Eve and the 5 days that follow, because it's 5 days here in Ireland. The hill of Ishnok has been the place where the Bealtaina fire has been lit since time can be remembered. We reckon about 3,000 years unbroken. And this year, I give a big shout out to David Clark, who lights the fire for the second time under the COVID cloud. And to everybody else, don't forget to put your pennies in the hat, because a miracle is being born. The miracle of the World Storytelling Cafe in Marrakesh. Can't wait to be there in reality. And look at all the friends that we've made during this crazy time. Stories bring people together. We're each a thread of a big rope, and there's no borders here. There's no boundaries and no limits, just possibilities. If you want to contribute to the possibilities, don't forget to put your penny in the hat. And with that, I'll tell you my story. Long, long ago in Ireland, people believed in An Sean Nos, the old ways. They put great store into it, and they listened to the stories. And one of the stories was, never take more than you need. Never take more than you need. They had words for looking for more than you need. Words like covetousness. Isn't that a great word? A nice big fat word. Covetousness. And it was very important not to be caught being covetous. In those days, they believed in demons. And there was a story about the Demon of Gluttony. There was a fine-looking king in Munster. His name was Fergal. He was beloved by everybody. He was fair of face and he was fair of nature. He was in the Fianna and his men loved him. And the people of Munster prospered underneath him. He fell in love with a girl called Leah. Leah was beautiful with long golden hair. She had a brother, and the brother wanted the seat of the king of Munster. So he called Leah to him, and he put a gasha on her. A gasha is a kind of a spell of your clan. If your clan asks you to do something, you must do it, and you must not talk about it, even to those ones that you love. He gave her a basket of food, and she knew that something had happened to those apples and those sweetmeats. And she presented them to her Fergal, fair of face, fair of heart. And she looked at him and she hoped that he wouldn't eat them. And she tried to tell him through her eyes, because she could not speak the words. But he mistook it. He mistook it for her anxiety to please him. So he put his hand out and he took an apple and he took a big juicy bite from it. And straight away the little seeds of covetousness got into his blood and surrounded his heart. At first it was hardly noticeable. 'Twould be a second portion of pudding at the table. 'Twould be a call for more wine when the party was dying down. But as time went on, his appetites grew, and his fair figure began to build bigger and bigger. And nobody wanted to sit at his right hand at the feast, for they knew that their plates and their bellies would be empty. If it just stopped there, you wouldn't mind. But he began taking the food from the people who most needed it in his community. The old widow, taxing her. The old man that had stopped work because his back was too weak now, taking his dinner. His men looked on with shock and shame. Could this be their king? And they did not want to follow him. So they made a special room for him, and there they would feed him. Before long, he grew so big, so full, so gluttonous that he couldn't get outside the door. And he called from inside, "Feed me! Feed me!" And his jowls started to grow and his tongue grew fat. They were so worried that they decided to call on the wise man from the Ulster region. Liz Ware will be delighted by that. And his name was Mac Conglin, the son of Conglina. Down he came, and as he came he had visions of how to tempt the demon. He knew that he would have to use his great words as a poet and as a storyteller to lead that demon into the hallowed halls of what could be offered without bringing it to him. That night he told the people to surround the building with firewood to make sure that if anything went wrong, they would light a great fire, for this was a huge risk. Then he stood 10 feet from the door and called in, "Fergal, Fergal, my boy, did you know of the fantastic food that they have in the Galtee of Ireland, in the Golden Vale? The butter would call for you. It's like the sun has kissed the ground in that beautiful butter." And the King Fergal's tongue began to unfurl and slide towards the front door, spittle coming down from both sides of it. Right towards the door it came, coming like a serpent, flapping on the threshold where it could go no further. "Oh," he said, "and the porridge, the creaminess of it. Oh, 'twould delight your senses. There's no better breakfast than creamy porridge with good Irish milk, and the top of the milk, the little creamy bit, swirled on the top to make it nicer, and a bit of honey as we talk to the bees. What about that?" And the tongue went starving for it. For 3 days and 3 nights he stood 10 foot away from that house, calling out the demon, telling him all the beautiful things that he could have, making the most of covetousness. You could have this, you could have that, you could have everything. Until the final day when he said, "Demon, who lives inside the throat of Fergal, we know that it is you. Come out now, and we will give you some of these things." And as he was saying it, he was given the signal to the men behind to light the fire. Into the big circle he put a big pot of steaming porridge. Next to it he put every fruit you could think of, the smere duva, the blackberries, the strawberries in season. The smell of them, they would tempt anyone. And the good boyne honey, he put that into the circle too. And then there was steaks that followed, steaks that were cooked. Did you ever smell a good Irish steak cooking with the peppercorns? Oh, the smell of it. It was almost as if it went in and pulled the demon out of the throat of Fergal. Out it came like a big slug. Across the ground it could hardly move, and the people stood outside the circle of holy water and yellow furze bush flowers, protecting themselves, crossing themselves, looking in awe as this demon made its way to the mountain of food that it had coveted. And when it got into the middle of the circle, it dived first on the meat, then it started licking the porridge. And as it did, they lit the fire around it. He hardly knew it, so covetousness had taken over. And then he went up in a great stream of blue smoke. And the people, they still talk about covetousness. Never take more than you need.
Oh, va, 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 va.
Fabulous, as David is saying, I believe. I'm just off to get a sandwich.
Yeah, she made me hungry too. And I just ate.
It was great. And that's a
Thank
really nice version of that story. Really, really enjoyed it. Thank you, Maria. And you make a very, very, there's a promising career for you in being a demon. And you could your way into a new career, I believe. That's a great version. I've heard a few other versions of that tale, but that really took me away. Nicely told. Thank you. Thank you. And I am hungry as a result. And like you, I am really, really excited about the festival in Marrakesh and really looking forward to being there with all of my new friends that I've made, thanks to Mike and John and the crew behind the scenes, Ali and Julio and everybody else that has been working tirelessly since lockdown began over a year ago now. And I think they need a big shake of the hands like that from us all and a round of applause, because they've just been, without you guys, you've contributed so brilliantly to the storytelling network on this planet. Thank you for doing that and keeping it going. And so we can come back to that in a while, but in the meantime, I think we're going to have a song from Colin if he's still around, and after Colin has sung, then Mike will be talking to Tony and Maggie, and then I can look at my list to see who's coming after that. Colin, are you still here?
I am still here.
Oh, there you are. Okay, brilliant. And thank you. I was going to say thank you for joining us and giving us a tune. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I was going to tell a wee story or something tonight, but I drastically underestimated how quickly time goes when you're doing a wee CD lunch. And Janet, who is on now, came on to the CD lunch at 6, and she asked me a lovely, interesting question about one of the songs, and I promised her I would sing this song, and I ran out of time. And so I felt really bad about that. So I'm going to sing the song now for Janet, but for all of you, I hope. And Janet was asking me about one of the tracks on the new CD. Was I looking back on a younger self, or was I talking about a young friend that I was looking back? And the answer to the question is I was looking back on a younger self. Thank you, Mike Faraday. We'll see how we go for time. I was looking back on a younger self. Someone gave me a photograph of myself when I was 14. One of these ones that was snapped of you at the time, and they had it for years somewhere, languishing in a box somewhere, uncovered it, and they gave me this photograph. And it instantly took me back to that time and my youth, and in Northern Ireland, which was a very, very troubled place at that time. And I lived in a particularly tough town. It depends who you talk to, what side of the divide you were from, whether it was tough or not, but it was tough for me. And I had this wee thought in my head. You know the way you're watching all these chat shows, they always ask these big stars, the movie stars and the pop stars, what if you could talk to a younger version of yourself, what advice would you give yourself? And they always come up with these naff answers, it seems to me. And I thought I'd come up with a few naff answers of my own. And so it's to answer your question, Janet, it's me looking back on myself and what I thought about myself then, the advice I would give to myself if I could advise that young boy that I was at 14. And I just called the song 14. Here we go. Wish I was 14 again. I miss a boy I knew back then. Summer sunburn long ago. Tousled hair as white as snow. Always running everywhere. Never seemed to have a care. Fishing, climbing, playing ball. But the writing was always on the wall. We could talk, tell him things only years of living brings. All the teachers never teach, and all the preachers dare not preach. I'd tell him crimes that I have solved, why one's condemned and one's absolved, how others hide behind the rules made by the wise men for the fools. I'd tell him why some people lie, why some chances pass him by. Tell him always to turn up, know how it feels to lift the cup. I'd tell him when to play his ace, see right through a poker face, when to back down from a fight, to read between the black and white. I'd prove to him the bravest man, give an enemy his hand, not to pray that war might cease. He's got legs to march for peace. If I could go back one more time to that young boy I left behind, I'd bid him to slow down a bit, not rushing for one of wit. I'd tell him all about fool's gold. Precious time is when you're old. Nothing ever really lasts except the future and the past. I'd tell him not to fret so much. Not every step needs a crutch. Those he thinks the whole world of, sing to them songs of love. I think we'd be the best of friends. Somehow I would make amends. I'd watch his back in this hard town. I wouldn't let them put him down. In a world drunk to destroy itself, mother slowly robbed of health. He might see the last spring bud. I'd give him my last drop of blood. I'd fight with every ounce of strength. Swear I'd go to any length. Across the ocean I would swim my whole life. I laid down for him. I wish was 14 again. Miss a boy I knew back then. Summer sunburn long ago. Tousled hair as white as snow. Sometimes I look back on that boy. My jaded heart jumps up for joy. All is said and done, you see. I know he'd do the same for me. Oh, thank you. That's the best I could do under the circumstances, Janet. Sorry, we didn't do that on the earlier show. I hope that answers your question.
It answers my question, but whichever way I look at it, I'm crying again. It's so. I haven't even got a word. Believe it or not a word, just tears. Thank you, Colin.
It's as I said in the earlier show, it's not my favourite one, but it's the one that's most personal to me. And thank you very much, Janet, for asking that question.
And thanks for singing it for us, Colin, as well. It was great. It was lovely. And sorry that it caused you a bit of a cough. And I was thinking, what would I tell myself if I could go back to my 14-year-old self? And I think it would just be, I don't know, just, well, don't punish yourself so much for things. Do you know what I mean? How we can like put ourselves down and, you know, and practice the guitar a bit more and keep writing songs. And one day you might be singing like Colin. You know, that's what I would tell myself. Anyway, it's been a good life and I've not got any complaints. Thanks for that, Colin. Brilliant. And if we do have time at the end, I'm not sure. John will put a little message in the chat and tell us how long we have got, just to keep the reins in, because I know that
there's no limit on tonight. Ali doesn't need to sleep. It's okay.
Oh, thank you, Ali. That's good. I bet he's glad to hear that.
No, we can carry on. We've got no one following you, Gary.
Okay.
So it's whenever you like.
Okay, well that's great. Well, we'll see how we get on. I know we got we got a couple of other people that want to tell, and then and so if we got time, I know Michael asked if he could tell, and asked if Colin could tell again, and you were wanting to tell us a story this evening, Colin. Sorry, I'm in a bit of trouble with my light. So if you do get a chance, and you're okay for it, you'd be most welcome to. Yeah, you water those cogs for that Guinness, mate, and look after yourself. So I think next one on my list then was David, Texas David, and he's going to tell us how the
Gary,
you promised. No. Oh yeah. Sorry, Mike. Yeah, I was looking at my list, and I had. Thank you for stopping me before we raced off, because this is the opportunity where we get to meet some of the Riyadh owners, where we're going to be hopefully staying this time in February next year, all being well, and how exciting that is. Mike, I hand it over to you.
Thank you. I'm quite humbled actually to follow Colin. I have to say, I'm constantly amazed at the talent in this group, and you know, and the mixture of emotions, and how you can transport us from gluttony to through Baba's puns to amazing places. So it'd be great to get all together in Marrakesh. The thing that makes Marrakesh special is its riads. And for those who are watching on Facebook and social media, and for those who will be watching on catch up later, please, when you come to the festival, please do come and stay with us in our riads. I'm just delighted to say that every single riad that I've spoken to and invited to participate so far has said yes. And that's 19 different houses, and most of them only have 5 or 6 bedrooms. So to give up a bedroom for a teller is for them a really big commitment. And the festival will be happening in the riad. So tellers will be telling in the riad as well as in the cafes and museums and other venues that we have planned. So the way to really immerse yourself in the festival is to stay in one of our partner riads. Now, the thing that I said that Marrakesh is made special by the riads. What makes the riad special is the people, and so we're really, really delighted to have Tony and Maggie with us this evening. If I can, are you unmuted? You'd like to say hello, guys?
Hi. It's really nice to meet you all.
Brilliant. So we're going to do this as a sort of a Q&A. If anybody has questions, please do jump in. But I'm going to ask Tony and Maggie 1 or 2 questions to start with. first of all, tell us about your move to Marrakesh and how you, tell your story.
Yeah, well, we were walking down the street one day and we just decided we need to do something. You know, we need to do something. We had okay jobs and we had a nice house, and we just decided, you know, you wake up one day and you're 50 something, and we just thought, oh God, let's do something. So we put the house up for sale without having much clue, and someone went and bought it straight away. We didn't have we don't have savings, we don't have pensions or anything, so we needed every penny from the sale of the house and our car. So we moved into a rented place and thought, well, where are we going to move to? And we thought, well, let's go and have a look at Marrakesh, because we thought we didn't have a clear plan really, but we thought we could run a little guest house, and because we had to earn money, we could earn money that way. So we went to Marrakesh for the first time, and we thought, oh, that'll do, that's nice. so we started looking around, and still not with a clear plan, not knowing what on earth we're doing, but we did find somewhere eventually that needed a lot of renovation, and we just moved there and hoped for the best. I don't know if there's anything.
We've now been there 7 years, and we've got 3 cats, and we've got a really, really nice riad. The only problem is we haven't been out there for just over a year now, but we do have our manager still in the riad, still doing work for us and making sure everything's safe. And we're ready for action. As soon as we can get out there, we'll be there.
I think we're all desperate to get out there, aren't we? It's absolutely crazy. Now, the thing that each riad is special, and I think it's very much the people that make it special. Can you tell us a little bit about your style of hospitality? You know, how your approach, and or, you know, what makes Red Chameleon special in that respect?
I think for the first time visitor to Marrakesh, it can be a little challenging. I mean, we think of it as the nearest faraway place. You know, you go on a 2 or 3 hour flight and you are somewhere completely different. Culturally, it's amazing. But some people can find it a little bit difficult while they settle in. So we always make sure that we meet people at the nearest Medina gate. We give them proper advice on how to get around, what's the best way to get around. Generally help people out as much as they can, and you know, if necessary, we advise them on an app to help, because most apps don't work. If necessary, then we walk them around the place. You know, I love, you know, sharing Marrakesh, showing people, you know, what we know, and I'm more than happy and walk people to the square or to the old Badi Palace, or, you know, just have a walk around the Souk Hamis or something like that, places that might be a little bit off the beaten track, you know. So customer service is really, really big with us. We welcome guests, you know, and
we listen to them.
We really want to help people get the most. I mean, we're not just kind of a business. We live there, and we help people as much as we can, and as such, we're very high up in the ratings.
Somehow. You're being very, very, very modest there, but quite deservedly. You're absolutely at the top of the ratings, and in the internet age, I'm afraid there's nowhere to hide. You know, if you're not outstanding, you will not stay there. So all credit to you guys there. So Ali, I'm going to ask our technician now, please, Ali. Can you help us by sharing 1 or 2 photographs? We're just going to give you a flavour here, guys. We appreciate we don't have unlimited time. Are you ready, Ali?
Yes, sir, I'm ready.
Thank you very much. And I'm very much aware that this has happened just as the fast is breaking in Marrakesh. So thanks for bearing with us. So, what's that, Tony?
Oh, right, okay. That's the alleyway immediately outside our riad.
The door on the left is the
Yeah.
entrance to our riad, and you could
Yes.
be back in the medieval times.
Yeah.
It's just so different from anything.
It was actually taken by a professional photographer, that picture. There was a Canadian film crew who stayed with us by choice rather than staying in the whatever international luxury boring pad. And they came to stay with us instead, and they stayed for a while. And so this was actually taken by a professional photographer.
But it is, so Marrakesh is a medieval walled city, and it is just the collection of the most intricate alleyway. I think getting lost is so much part of the charm, isn't it? You really get a flavour from that, don't you?
And if you've never been there before, this is just so different from anywhere else in the world. And like Tone says, we're the nearest faraway place, and that's 100% true.
Fantastic. Can we go to the next slide, Ali, please?
Can I just ask, do all the alleys look like that? I mean, would you spend, if you were wandering back at the end of the evening, would you spend half the night wandering along alleys like that going, which door was it?
Well,
it could be. It varies. But
we lend people a phone so that you can always give us a call, and we'll either talk you back or come and meet you. But you get used to it. You'll find a way.
When you're asked where someone lives and you say, well, I don't know the number of their house, but I know what the front door looks like. Well, if you keep that in your head in Marrakesh, it might work.
Yeah, that's true.
And you said they've got a swimming pool.
Come and meet you, that's good. So this is the courtyard. It was nothing like this when we moved in. The builder came round with some chalk and we drew the swimming pool on the courtyard floor. And in fact, everything was planned out in an afternoon with the builder using chalk. But it worked out quite well. How deep do you want it? He said. So I'll put my hand up to my head. Yeah, okay, yeah.
It's absolutely fantastic. It's a beautiful courtyard. And so this space here is open to the sky, and Riyadh in Arabic means garden, and so they're garden house, inward-facing garden houses, and so your each bedroom door opens into this beautiful, in the daytime sunlight-filled courtyard, and at the night you literally look up at the starry sky. It's incredible, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And can I just ask, in February, is the pool swimmable in February?
Some people swim. Some people do. Not myself.
It's a bit fresh for me, but
really, they're more for cooling off the pools rather than swimming. To be fair, but so yeah, I mean, you come back from the suits and dip your, sit on the side and dip your legs in, and I think that's the way that most people would use them, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes
at
the side.
I will it down.
I missed that.
Did you say how warm is it then, David?
It down.
How warm is it in February?
Well, how warm is the pool? The pool.
No, probably it could be the pool, but also how warm is it in Morocco? I guess, is that right?
Morocco's usually about 15 degrees warmer than the UK. So if we're 5 degrees, Marrakesh will be 20. But it obviously some variability around it. But very pleasant compared to here. We can get rain, of course, but if we get a shower, it's over quite quickly usually, and you'll certainly get plenty of sunshine during the time of the festival. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is winter there, of course, but it's I mean, you're flying 3 hours due south. So I don't know if you've been to the Canary Islands in at that time of year, but we're on the same latitude as the Canary Islands.
So when you gave the temperature, was that in Celsius or Fahrenheit?
Oh, blimey.
Celsius.
Celsius.
Celsius,
Okay.
thanks for helping. European.
Because I was getting worried. All right, thank you.
Fantastic. Can we go to the next slide, please, Sally?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Tell us about.
I'll tell you about this one, if you don't mind. Christmas is not celebrated in Marrakesh because they're a Muslim culture. And so this is Christmas Day, but it's also my husband's birthday on Christmas Day. So myself and Tony and Abdu and Simo and Hadisha, Fuzia and Hussein, they're our staff team. We all celebrated by sharing a great big chocolate cake for Tone's birthday. They're a good staff team, excellent.
They're so happy, you know, and Abdu in the front there has been with us from the very, very start. All of them, they're such a pleasure to work with. You know, it's just fantastic, and they've all been with us long term. You know, love working with them.
They're lovely people.
Yeah.
You really get the feel of the Marrakeshi hospitality from that picture, don't you?
Yeah. Oh, I should tell you also, Hadisha, bless her, the lady with the pink top on. When we shared the cake there, she did the traditional, I don't know what you call it, the kind of song where they go, I can't do it nearly as well as they do, but she did it at the top of her voice, and everybody in the Riyadh was saying, "What's going on? What's happening?"
It's like an alarm call, isn't it?
Yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant. Can we go to the next photo, please, Ali? Now I was going to ask, where's your favourite spot in the Riyadh? But
yeah, this is what I missed. Sitting on the rooftop, it's just wonderful. And to add to this little bit of rooftop, we've also now had another rooftop terrace built over the last year. So we're hoping it's how we've asked for it to be. But as long as it's up near the sky and you've got the views all the way over the Medina, it's just wonderful.
Just fabulous rooftop views in the other direction to this, going to the Atlas Mountains as well.
Yeah,
just fabulous panorama all round. It's one of the highest spots. It's fabulous. It's such a lovely place to sit in the early evening.
It's time we had another little soiree there, Mike.
I know. I'm sitting there with a glass of red wine in my hands right now. Brilliant, brilliant. Ali, have we got one more?
Just a random room.
This was probably the first room that we renovated. Just the palm room, because there were 2 palm trees outside that room. All of the rooms are named according to whatever goes on around it. So we've got the jasmine room, because there's a huge jasmine plant grows up the side of it, and so on. But yeah, this is the palm room. Very nice, relaxing room. Very nice.
Brilliant. That's absolutely fantastic. So, Ali, thank you very much for that. If you'd like to close down the screen share, and I think it's time for you to go and break your fast now. So thank you very, very much for bearing with us.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks to everybody.
No, thank you, Ali.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So, yeah, what can I say? Our friends well, let me ask, how are you feeling about the storytelling festival, Tony and Maggie?
Oh, amazing!
It's wonderful.
Amazing! It's so relaxed, isn't it? Yeah, just brilliant, just brilliant. And you know, to Marrakesh, you know, this hopefully will breathe new life again. It's such a brilliant venture. Amazing.
I think it gives hope to everybody out there.
Absolutely amazing. Does anybody else have questions?
I'm just a little curious. I know that Islam is the major religion there, and I've heard people refer to drinking wine, and I wonder if that causes conflict or concern while in Marrakesh.
You have to learn the way of the culture.
It's just it's purely respect,
Yes,
really. You know, you wouldn't wander around the street with a can of beer, but in the privacy of a riad, a glass of wine on the roof, you know, is no problem at all. You can buy wine and beer in supermarkets quite openly. It's just a question of being respectful, I think, really. And you know, we don't put wine bottles in the rubbish bin because it's near the mosque, and you know, nobody drinks in public. But within the riad, absolutely, you know, I don't think, you know, we're not offending anybody really. It's generally speaking, it's fine. It's actually made in Morocco anyway. The Moroccan wine is rather good.
It kind of, excuse me, it kind of reminds me of, in my youth, I used to be privy to wine stock from monasteries by the Christian, by the Christian brothers, pun intended. So yeah, I was just curious because I'm always respectful of other people's beliefs, and in Washington D.C., there are multiple. I mean, you turn one corner, you may be amongst Christians. You turn another corner, they may be Islamic, Buddhist, whatever. So I'm always mindful. You know, yeah. I have a friend who's Muslim, and he took me out to dinner and ordered wine for me, and I'm like, is this a trick? But you know, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Fantastic, wonderful. You know, that has been. I think that's been really great in terms of giving a flavour of bringing a flavour of Marrakesh to us. So, thank you very, very much.
Our pleasure.
And can we thank you for including us in the festival? We're just being part of it.
More than welcome.
That matter with the more matter matter.
You might have to pop that in the chat, David. Can you pop that in the chat?
That would be great. If I could just, one parting thought actually is that, so I think Tony and Maggie are about 2/3 full at the moment. There's still a couple of rooms. It's got quite a few bookings, you know, as well as the room that they're kindly providing for a teller. They've got, I think, three rooms booked, and that leaves a couple more available. So please do check out Riad Chameleon through our website. Do book directly, please, as John was saying at the beginning. If you book through an agency, then you know, frankly, there's some money then that has to be paid to the agency, which we'd much rather went direct to our accommodation partners. So thank you again, guys. With that, I'm going to pass over back to Gary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for that. Thanks, Mike and Maggie and Tony for giving us that. And I look forward to meeting you when the time comes. And as I was talking to somebody today, is eight of these sessions before. So there's one a month, or I'm not sure actually, because the next one's in the end of May. So there may be two.
It just no, well, it's sort of every 4 weeks. It's whatever's convenient. It's it's because we do our story round every 2 weeks, so it has to work on the odd week. So the next one is on the 30th of May.
Yeah, so that's 2 in May. Does that? And so I don't know if that means there's 8 in all, or 9 or 7. I don't know. My maths is like out the window. But soon is what it amounts to. I think we will be there soon, all being well. So great. And as Maria had said before, don't forget there's a little hat down there somewhere, or it might be over there if you're watching live, and all the different mediums that you might be, or platforms that you might be watching this evening's show or stories through. But if
and it will actually say you're giving the money to me, but I've got it's a separate account, because it says if you put in Festive Fund, and then pops in the hat, it says, do you want to give money to John Rowe? You're not giving money to John Rowe, I assure you. You're giving money to the festival.
I mean, it's good that you point that out, because some people at that point, if they didn't know, might hesitate and not. So thanks, John, for pointing that out. Yeah, all donations going towards the festival via, they'll be resting in John's account for a very short time, or not at all. I don't know. It might bang straight out again. But if John's name appears in the transaction, he's not pocketing the cash.
Everything is separate. I put separate stuff for all that. It's nothing. I even put a new email address, everything. So there's no possibility of me buying bread and cheese for myself out of it.
Okay, great. Well, let's move swiftly on. Thanks, John. And thanks for setting that up as well, because I was trying to work out how I was going to do it and I hadn't got a clue. So I just thought I'd rest with the guy with the long beard, and he knows what he's doing. The beard proves it. So moving swiftly on, I think we were going to hear about how the pudding stopped the preacher, if that's right. And it would be David Thompson from Texas who is going to tell us that.
I hope you can hear me okay. All right, good. All right, y'all. I am so glad to be here today. I don't normally talk like this, but because this story comes from the Appalachians, I'm going to give you a chance to tune that brain of yours so you can listen to the dialect and to the accent. So I'm going to tell you today the story of how the pudding stopped the preaching. Now, there's two things you need to know about the Appalachian culture. One is, what is a holler? Now, a holler is a small valley between two mountains. The second is dinner on the ground. Now, what happens in small communities amongst the different churches, they'll get together and have all-day preachings, and the people will be bringing their food. And then there's a big break, and everybody eats and plays and all this good stuff. That's called a dinner on the ground. So, here we go. Now, I don't know, but I've been told that there was a time when the pudding stopped the preaching. And this was told to me by my mother's second husband's fourth cousin's third aunt's fifth neighbor's side. It turns out that the McCoys, you know the McCoys, really nice family. They live up over there in Johnson Holler. They were all preparing to go to dinner on the ground. And all day preaching and singing. And this Lord, it's just so much fun. Well, it turns out that the two Seed the Spirit Fire Baptized Predestinarian Baptists and the Holy Hallelujah Jesus Methodist Church, primitive, mind you, and the Let's Love Everybody Holy Sanctified Religious Revival, they all done got together so they could have an all-day preaching and a dinner on the ground. Well, it turns out Miss Lula McCoy, that's the mother, the mothers of the farm actually run the farm. She was known for her pudding. Now, these puddings are cooked in a big old kettle over the fireplace in the kitchen. The kitchen, mind you. So she was working all day long, and she got out some cornmeal, and she got out some molasses, and she got out some dried fruits and some nothing. She was just cooking away, and stirring that pot, just stirring it all around, making certain, because she was going to have to bank the fire. She had to bank the fire and cover it so it would just cook all night. Oh, Lord of me, Jesus, Mary, and the barnyard animals. The smell of that house was just absolutely mouth-wateringly fantastic, I tell you, right now. Well, it turns out that Miss Lula was in the bedroom putting her hair up, and had little pieces of cloth, and she was just tying it up in her hair, and her mouth was just full of pins, and she was just, she done forgot to put salt in the pudding. So what you think she did? She called out to her husband, Rastus, hey, Rastus, What you want, Lula? Rastus, I forgot to put salt in the pudding. Would you do it? Well, let me think about it and I'll get back to you. Lord, Miss Lula was like, what am I going to do with this family? So she called out to her son. She said, Rufus Jr., would you please go put some salt in the pudding for me? I got my hair all tied up. And Rufus, her son, said, Ma, I'm busy slopping the hogs. What you think I got time to stop and go put salt in the pudding? What's a mama to do? What is a mama to do? Well, I don't know, but Miss Lula then called out to her daughter, Lula Bell. Hey, Lula Bell, what you want, Ma? Lula Bell, I need you to go put some salt in the pudding. But I got my hands and they're all covered with axle grease. I'm trying to get the warts off. And the widow woman who told me I can't do anything until after I see the full moon over my left shoulder. Well, that done it right there. Miss Lula just took those pins out of her mouth. She went into the kitchen. She put in the correct amount of salt. She covered it. Then she went back to the bedroom to finish doing her hair to make herself all fully beautified, you know what I mean? Well, it turns out, my friends, and my friends you are, because I was told you was my friends, that the husband said, he was feeling mighty poor about not helping her out. So he goes into the kitchen and he looks at that pot. I mean, it's a big old black kettle pot just all over the fire hanging on its hook. And he thinks to himself, well, it's going to be a big pot. So I've got to have a big spoon of salt. So what you done think he did? He went over, he got a serving spoon, you know, those big old serving spoons, and he put a big old serving spoon of salt into the pudding, stirred it up, topped it off, put the top back on, washed off the ladle, which is really nice for a husband to do, and put it to the side. Well, then the son was feeling pretty bad about not doing it because he was busy. So he said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be surprised my mom going to tell her that I did it. So he goes into the kitchen. He sees that serving spoon. He gets a serving spoon of salt and he stirs it in, tamps it down, washes off, and goes about his business. Well, Little Bell, she's the daughter. You remember her name. She was feeling pretty poorly because she couldn't help her mom, but she knew that if she got a spoon, she could wash off the axle grease. So she goes into the kitchen also. And she takes that big old spoon and she puts the salt in and she stirs it up. She tamps it off and she washes it. The ladle, she rinses it off and she goes to wait for that full moon over the left shoulder. So everything seemed to be going okay. It's all going to bed. Miss Lula, she goes down to the kitchen and she says, they probably didn't do it. Let me put some salt in the pudding. So she takes a small spoon and she puts a small spoon and she stirs it up, puts it to the side, and she covers it. She banks that fire because that's going to be the best pudding that they done ever had at that homecoming. Next day come, they was all washed. They was all the shiny shoes, and the men folk, they done got ties on, and Miss Lula's hair was just gorgeous from taking down all those curly papers. And they load that pudding on the back of the buckboard, and off they go to the homecoming. And I tell you, my friends, that was some homecoming. Lord, Lord, Lord. There was preachings, and there was testifyings, and there was baptizings, and that choir done rocked the church. They sang my favorite song, Drop Kick Me Jesus Through the Goalpost of Life. And oh, Lord, it was just grand. And I tell you what happened. Now, this is a little bit different. What happened is Miss Mary Jane, she got done hit by the Holy Spirit, and she started dancing up and down the aisles. She was just gyrating and a hooping and a hollering, and she was just going, and she tripped and she fell down, and they had to run and pull her dress down so she could be modest in the Lord. Well, there was, I said, there was preachings, and there was baptizings, and there was testifyings, and then there was lunch. Well, everybody done come out of the church, and in the front, there were boards that were just full down with all sorts of food. There was fried chicken, all cracklified and shining from the sun, and there was all mustard tater salad, and there was string bean casserole, which I tell you is pretty nasty, but still, there was some gelatine salads. We call them Jello salads. And Lord, I tell you, people were done being the gluttons. They was eating, and they was eating, and they was singing and talking, and the children's was playing. And then all of a sudden, there was a cling, 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 cling from the church bell, and everybody done paid attention. And the deacon comes out and says, my friends, for my friends you are. We are so happy to be here. But now we're going to have the pudding tasting contest. All you ladies, bring your puddings up. And you too, Mr. Norman. We know you live by yourself. So all brings their puddings up. And they all get, all the three preachers, they got a taste. And they got another taste. And they went, oh, yeah, that's really good. Did you taste? Oh, this one is real. Oh, my word. Well, we got so many. So they get down to the pudding itself. And Miss Lula was standing there. Oh, she was pretty. And she was proud as punch. And they take that top off. And all the three judges, who happened to be the three preachers. You remember those churches I told you about? Well, they all took a spoon, they dipped it in, and they tasted it. Oh, goodness. Oh, my. It's just, and the second was, and the third one was like, help, I can't breathe. Lord, help me. Well, they got everybody a glass of water or something like some sweet iced tea. They got him something to drink. And the deacon, the one who was, in sort of in charge of the whole thing, he came out, he clanged that bell again. He says, people, we're so sorry. But for some strange, God unknown reasons, none of the preachers can continue for the rest of the day. So y'all just go ahead, share out your food, take it on back, because I know we're going to talk about this for one long time. And that's what they did. They got their food. And Miss Lula said, nobody doesn't have my pudding. She said, we're going to have to taste this when we get home. Let's go. Come on. Come on, let's go. So they loaded that pudding back on the buckboard. They all took off, bit over back to Johnson Hall. That's where they lived. And they pulled that pudding in, put it on the table. They went and changed into their everyday clothes. Came down, and Miss Lula doesn't have bowls of it all around for everybody, and she'd been ladling it out. And said, all right now, I want you to tell me what happened. And every one of them took a spoonful and they spit it right out. Even Miss Lula herself. They drank some water. And Miss Lula said, why is this pudding so god-awful salty? Well, you take it from there, friends, for you know the story about why the pudding stopped the preaching. And that's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
David, it's always a delight to hear you tell a story in that southern drawl. It is wonderful. I was there right the way through it. Like I was there, do you know what I mean? And tasting it up. It was great. That was a great story. And I tell you what, I'll take a lot of things away from tonight, but the one thing I'm really going to take away from was drop kick me, Jesus, through the goalposts of life.
And it's a real song too, let me tell you.
That was wonderful.
Hey, David.
Go on, Babasi.
From one American teller to another. You done it.
Thank you, Master. Thank you so much.
Done it.
I know.
When I heard your accent, I'm having flashbacks that don't exist. But you done good, kid.
Thank you, Bobby C. And I don't normally talk that way anyway, so.
Sure, that's your story. Stick with it.
I will. I will cite you in my bibliography for saying that.
I think the first story I ever heard you tell, David, was I can't remember the guy's name, and I can't remember if it was a horse or a bull or something like that, but it was some guy way out west, and some animals.
Oh, you're talking about Bigfoot Sam.
That's the one. That was such a great story, and it's always a joy. Thank you for bringing us in. Everybody's face was like that. Great. So, well, listen, who was on my list next? So Rachel, I think you're on, and then Michael will put you on after, and then I've actually got a gig in Canada at 9 o'clock British time. A different time out there. I'm not quite sure. So I'll probably say, Colin, can we hear you at the end of the month on the 30th? You've sang us that lovely story, and I think you need to give your voice a rest anyway. But if you burst in to tell the story, please do. But otherwise, or I'll be late for my gig, or I have to rush out. And anyway, let's move on. Rachel, where are you?
Hello.
Hi,
Yeah,
Rachel.
I'm here. Yeah. And this story is one of my stories, so it's not really it's not an old story, it's a new story. And it came to me when I had about 6 days as a cleaner in a school, and I wasn't very good at it, as you can tell, so I lost my job. I forgot to hoover one of the rooms or something, but one of the rooms that I did hoover was a nursery where they used to play with all sorts of games, and there were always, I was hoovering up little sparkly stars. So that was where I got this story from. It's about an elephant called Barsby. So Barsby the elephant, he could not sleep, couldn't sleep. He tried to sleep, and the stars, if it was a starry night, then the stars were really sparkly. And as you know, stars are very giggly. And they like laughing a lot, so they'd disturb him, so he couldn't sleep anyway. But if the stars weren't there, then it was dark, and then he was scared, so he couldn't sleep either. So he had a hard time sleeping, did Barsby. Anyway, so Barsby was walking through the forest, and he met his friend Alice, who's also an elephant. And so Barsby says to Alice, well, you know, I've got this problem. I just can't sleep. I'm so tired, Alice. What can I do? I just don't know. But I know, Alice, I think I should suck up all the stars in the sky. And if the stars were not there, then perhaps I would sleep, because it would be dark. It would give me a bit more of a chance. And, you know, they are a bit giggly and silly, these stars. So it would be a lot quieter. So Alice is a bit reluctant, because she's like, well, I'm not really sure about sucking up the stars. What would happen? And it's a bit strange as well, but I love my friend Barsby, so yeah, I'll do that for you. So they sit down on this log, both together, and they start sucking and zooming, and they suck all the stars out of the sky into their elephant trunks and into their elephant tummies. But as I told you before, these stars are very giggly and jiggly and wiggly, and they ended up in Barsby and Alice's tummies, and they were still jiggling around in their tummies. and it made Barsby fart a big fart and burp a big fart burp as well. And Alice the same, and she was a bit embarrassed, so she was just went a bit red. But anyway, after a while of walking around and feeling a bit jiggly and wiggly in their tummies, it got dark again, darker and darker and darker. And they were a little way away from home and they couldn't find their way. And Alice says, well, do you know, if the stars were out, I'd be able to see where I was, but I can't find my way. And Barsby couldn't find his way either. And suddenly they could hear these noises, hoo, 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 and all the monkeys, they could hear the monkeys and they could hear the roar of the tiger as well. And so they were both a bit nervous and they were a bit scared and they couldn't find their way home, so they didn't know what they were going to do. So they stopped for a while and Alice said, well, do you know, these stars, they are a bit giggly in my tummy, and I think the wisest thing is to shoot the stars back into the sky. So they sat down again on another log and they whooshed and they zoomed and they whooshed the stars back into the sky. And oh, there was all the lights, the light came out and they could see the path and they could see their way back home. But do you know, in the morning when they go down to the pool and the elephants like to play, and what the elephants like to do is to whoosh up the water and then spray it at each other and at some of the other animals that are around the pool. But actually now, when they do that in the morning, they sprinkle starshine all over the place and all over the other animals. And that's my story. Oh, I have to
Thank you
unmute.
for that one, Rachel. Thank you. And I was just imagining like a star fart, you know. But I didn't want to say that, not in public. So ignore what I've just said. Great tale. Thank you very much. What was the name of the elephant? I missed that because you were...
Barsby it was. I don't know. I saw it on a truck one day and I thought, Barsby, that sounds like the name I need for my elephant. Yeah.
Nice place to find your name on
Yeah.
the side of the truck. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you for that one. So I'm going to move over to who's coming next? Mike Faculty. Mike, how do you pronounce your surname? Sorry, I'm nearly, because I've still got another word in my head and I didn't want that one to be the one that came.
Yeah, faculty.
Yeah.
My wife was very brave. She's a teacher and she took on that name instead of her original name of James. Mrs. Faculty.
Okay.
Anyway. Thank you. I wasn't going to tell tonight, but I felt after what Baba C had said, I felt I should come on and clear it up because there are a couple of misunderstandings in his story. Now, way back near the beginning, when even Peter Murphy and John Rowe were young boys, long ago, the sun and the moon were together and they did go round the sky together. I don't know if they were married. You may be right, Baba C. I just knew they were together and they were great friends. I mean, they were such good friends. They had a daughter and the son took their daughter, who was a hare, and she said, you shall be known as Celestial Hare and you can live with us forever up in the sky. And the moon knocked me out and said, and everywhere you put your paws, you will create stars. And they were all very happy for a long time. And you can see they spent a long time together because if you look up in the sky, there are so many stars, you know they were there for a long time. Then one day, as Celestial Hare was growing older, she came to maturity and she looked around and she saw the earth and she fell in love. And the earth loved her and she loved the earth. And she said to sun and moon, I'm in love with earth. And they were really disappointed and really quite cross. In fact, they were livid. And they said, you could have fallen in love with another sun, with another moon. Instead, you fall in love with this lump of soil down below us, this earth. And the sun said, I take away your name. You're no longer celestial hair. You're just a common brown hair. And you cannot stay with us in the sky. You love Earth so much you can go down and you can live on Earth forever. And the moon said, and I take away your power to create stars. Wherever you put your paw down now, you will not create stars. And they were really, and the brown hair went down to Earth and she lived on Earth and eventually she died. But before she died, the moon said to her, you know what, I think we've been a bit harsh. Wherever you put your paws, you will create dandelions instead of stars. And clearly she lived quite a long time, because if you look around, there are a lot of dandelions. But when the sun found out that the moon had given part of the gift back, the sun was so angry that the moon got scared and ran away. And that's why now you have the sun in the day and the moon at night. They're avoiding one another. But sometimes the moon gets a bit brave. Then you get kind of a pale shadow of the moon during the daytime. But then, no, thinks better of it. And to this day, the descendants of celestial hair stroke brown hair still jump up into the sky and still stand up in March, hoping that their great-grandparents will see them and allow them to come back to live in the sky. None have yet. And that's my tale.
That was a lovely story, Mike. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry, I didn't realize that I wasn't muted. I was just passing a message to Bob whilst you were talking. I hope that I didn't interrupt your tale. That was lovely. No, whoa, great, whoa. Two tales of how the sun and the moon come to chase each other or run away from each other across the sky. And of course, we just had that beautiful big pink moon earlier on this week. And I was looking up there and wondering, how did they get there? And now I know. So lovely. It's been a great night. I am going to wrap it up now, if that's okay with everybody. So I want to thank you all, those of you that are still in the room. Thank you all for sharing your tales. And somebody's just said, great idea, Norman. And I don't know what the great idea was. So I would Rock the Casbah be open to raffling off signed copy of Duncan Williamson's Don't Look Back, Jack? I'm sure we would. Can we do it? Can we do it next time? Or it seems like it's not necessarily something we can organise right now. Signed by Duncan? That's with a question mark.
I would recommend it be done maybe 2 or 3 Casbahs from now to kind of do it. But I just need a yes or no.
What was that, Norman? You can do what?
We could do the draw 2 or 3 Casbahs from now.
Yeah.
And then I will mail the book to the winner.
Yeah, let's arrange it we can talk outside of this and we'll take it from there.
I just needed a yes or no.
Yeah, I'm up for that.
Norman, very, very kind of you, Norman. That's a very, very special book to share. Thank you.
Yeah. I thank you. You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
And whilst we were talking about books, Mike, at some point we were talking about the possibility of selling or promoting the cookbooks that you have. I wasn't quite sure how we would do that, but if we could, that might be a great thing.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, we've just we're at the moment we're running a soup kitchen in Marrakesh, and we've been offering cookbooks to people who've donated. So I think we just have a little pause of maybe a month or so, and then we can by all means offer cookbooks to supporters of the festival fund. That would be great.
Maybe just on the evenings that we do this, and if anybody wants to buy one this evening, and then it just goes into the pot.
Well, so what we did with the soup kitchen is that we covered the book and also the postage, so that donors knew that everything they were giving was going to was going to support the good cause. So let's say we do that next time. That would be great.
That sounds good. And great work with the soup kitchen as well. How many did you do? 30,000 portions the other week, was it?
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. So I mean, it's unfortunate that it's needed, but the soup kitchen is serving 150 meals a day at the moment, so 1,000 a week.
Yeah.
And it's surprising how it adds up. I mean, we've been doing it since September, and I think it's 33,000 meals now.
Yeah. Okay, that's really great, and well done for that initiative. I'm going to wrap it up. We're going to say thank you to Baba C, if he's still there. I don't know if he's maybe left the room. Oh no, he's over there. You're looking around the grid trying to find everybody. To Baba C, to Maria. Is Maria still in the room, or she left? I don't know. I can't tell. She's maybe left. But to Maria, to Mike, Maggie, and Tony, to David Thompson, who's left the room, I know, to Rachel, and to Michael, to you all. I just want to say also at this point that my heart goes out to our friends in India, and I hope that they sort something out over there very, very quickly. I've met some wonderful people through the Storytelling Network, and I'm just like, oh my goodness. So my heart goes out to them and wish them all the best. And to all of you, thank you for joining us this evening, wherever you are in the world, and we'll see you on the 30th of May. And I think Dave Tong is going to be our lead teller that night, all things being well, and we'll arrange some other storytellers to be there.
And thank you, Gary. And I know there were some people who didn't get a chance to tell tonight. So next, well, I mean, we have our regular program. So next Sunday at 6 o'clock UK time is our worldwide story round. So that's an open. I know Janet comes to that regularly, and Mike, and the people. And just turn up and tell. We just let it roll until everyone's told. And we have on Tuesdays. And if anyone knows any young tellers under 18, on Tuesdays we have young tellers from all over the world. They range from about 9 to 18 years of age, and that's fantastic. On Friday we have stories for children this way, David Heathfield, and on the 10th, Monday week, is David Thompson, other David Thompson, UK David Thompson, is on our Connecting the World by Stories night. He's doing 2 worlds in one, which is looking at the world of disability and how it interacts. But we're looking through the perspective. We're looking through David's perspective, and the perspective, instead of looking in, we're looking out from that, and we're looking at how that works in different places in the world. So we're really looking forward to that, David. Gary's got to get off to his next gig.
I just wanted to quickly thank Colin, because I forgot to mention Colin. He sang that lovely song, and I forgot to mention that in the little list of thanks there. So
best on the gig, Gary.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm actually, it's a gig, it's a story swap, but they said, would I come and tell the story? And I was like, yes, I definitely will. So thanks for that, Baba C. And yeah,
You're going to go away. We'll all wave goodbye.
Yeah.
See you.
Until the next time.
Yeah.
During the month and at the end of the month. Thank you.
And Riyadh Chameleon,
yeah.
Maggie in February.
Yeah, we'll see you, but come and visit us anyway. Come and visit us online if you just want to see more. Just see who we're imposing on you. You're welcome anytime in the room.
David, are you saying something?
The room is closing down.
Can you put it in, type it in, the message? Might be.
Yeah, because the room is closing down.
Yeah.
And did anyone notice this has been the most quiet John Rowe has ever been since I've started logging in? That's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's just a thing.
Oh boy.
Well, Mike's gone. So
We can talk about him then.
yeah. Ali has actually been going some time, and he's just broken his fast, and I think we ought to let Ali get relax a bit.
Yeah.
Hey, John, keep sending me the reminders.
I'll
even
remind
though
you
you get that. Even though you get that autoresponder, just keep sending me the reminder.
I'll send it. Don't worry. You know, you're on the radar. You have no means of escape.
Or you.
Okay, see you, better. See you.
Until the next time, to be continued.
Thank you, Ali.
Thank you, Ali.
Thank you, Baba. Thank you, everyone.